Welcome back to another chapter of Upcycling the American Dream, the story of Hamilton v. Vortic. I'm RT Custer. Make sure that you stay tuned to the end, where I let you know the best way to follow along and see the next chapter. So you said that you would work something out with us, I think is how we initially put it. And you just dove in, got right to work, which obviously is why we're sitting here talking now. And I'll never be able to repay you for that. But we did have to pay you.
Yeah.
And I believe we had a conversation at some point, and you just said, we'll figure this out, but we're looking at years, not months. Because I think I asked something to the effect of like, how much is this going to cost, assuming they take it all the way to Supreme Court? You know, like what's the worst case scenario? I think that's probably how we had that conversation.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario. And you said it's years, not months, for sure. And we're definitely in the six figures to properly defend you, even on a budget, just doing the bare minimum. And so I remember taking that and saying, okay, thank God I found someone to help, but oh shit, now we're trying to run a business, trying to scale a business, which we've been doing for years. I mean, this is 4 years into the lawsuit, 3.5 years in the lawsuit at this point. So we've survived that long, but now my legal budget needs to go up exponentially. I think we started the conversation about like PR at that point, or I did, and I said like I need to tell the world this is happening, see if we can win on the court of public opinion and those things. And so all of my expenses were going way up, and I knew there was a looming legal bill at the end of this, whether we won or lost. Months before that, we had the idea for the military edition. We've been talking about it for a while. We started working on it. We were always a little nervous because the military edition, this is a Hamilton pocket watch made by the original Hamilton Watch Company. It doesn't say Hamilton on the dial, like a lot of the stuff that we had paused making out of respect for the legal process. And, you know, it's the coolest watch on the earth. Like it's a piece of military history. It says GCT on the dial, not Hamilton. It says Hamilton on the back. And so I remember kind of being on the fence, and I realized if we release this, we could make enough money to pay for everything and keep the company afloat and probably pay you. But we might be digging ourselves a deeper hole because it's a Hamilton pocket watch. And so I remember asking you something to the effect of like, do you think this is okay?
Not to go into, let me just talk about it for a second. Not to go into necessarily legal advice that was given. There were a few features of this. First of all, you didn't need to stop selling the watch. It was a precaution. And when I say the watch, the
Lancaster
movement, the thing inside of everything.
Yep.
What you have here is a piece that is, I mean, truly Vortic. It so happens that the origin, which you specify in everything you've done, relates back to a historical watch. I think in the ads that you had, you said it was used for bombing runs for precision and things like that, so as to avoid collateral damage, etc. It was a deep description of where the origin of this watch comes from, which when you look at this watch, when you look at the features of it, it is distinctly a military watch. And the way this is redone, if you look at it, it is, as we talked about earlier, it's really a piece of art. This is an interpretation of the past, and it's encased in a protective, I mean, this thing will last another 200, 300 years, what you've done to it. From day one, you should have never been sued. Two, I think, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but in the history of this case, you've really demonstrated that upcycling matters, and we can recover these relics from the past. And that's how you displayed it, how you advertise it, how you represented it. You've never hidden anything, and honestly, this is a beautiful specimen. I'm jealous of them. Don't own one yet, but it's a wonderful watch. So that's kind of what I indicated. And the other thing too is there were a lot of other features other than my looming bill too. We did have conversations about PR. Your PR did a great job on this case. I think the movement within the watch industry was significant during this case. And so you did need the cash to run the show, meaning the operations of the company too. So, yeah.
And I just thinking about this takes me back to when I recorded the launch video for the military edition.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time I recorded that, like the same day, I also recorded a video to announce the lawsuit and basically try to release more information about that and explain some of the background story and all that kind of stuff. And that was the first time I was like ready to like go public with it and like officially ask for help. And we have never released that video. It's saved somewhere on my computer. We never put it out because I remember talking with Tyler about that. It's like, we either need to do this and sell a ton of military editions, or we need to go public and try to generate some court of public opinion kind of stuff. And we decided to say, hey, let's try to launch this watch and see if people support us financially without even knowing about the lawsuit. Because most people at this point, even though you and I obviously had deep knowledge of it, most people in the world had no idea we were getting sued by Swatch and Hamilton. We hadn't talked about it much, if any. Fast forward, again, knock on wood, thank God, rather be lucky than good, whatever you want to say. November 11th, 2019, we sold 50 of these in 24 hours and made $250,000.
Yeah.
And the profit from this funded the company for the next 6 months.
Just let me add one other thing. About the same time that you had that watch come out, we actually won the summary judgment motion, if you recall.
Mm-hmm.
And on that, the judge found only one element we hadn't demonstrated under certain factors that you have to show. And so she kept that because there was a factual question left.
Right.
And at that point, many of the, what I would say, the claims that were filed by Hamilton had disappeared. And so that's another, feature of that. And then the other thing I think is important is about that same time, and perhaps earlier, you were working with the Veterans Watch Initiative.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a groundswell, in my assessment, being the litigator, in understanding who Vortic was, who you were, and seeing the watch community kind of rally around that. And honestly, your genuineness and integrity to the community and the giving back that you gave, I think also aided in this groundswell. So you didn't actually have to announce, hey, we're getting sued. People were behind you and they were believing in what you're doing. And that's the strength of what you were doing at that time. So there was a lot at play, and really you were fortunate to be at that place in time because there was so much groundswell of support for you and for the brand. And honestly, you'd read blogs on the internet about the lawsuit, but in the watch industry, I think everybody had your back, except for some of the bigger players.
That's true. Yeah, I remember having several conversations with you and others at that time on the military edition, and the launch of the first edition of our military watches was one of the biggest times that I put all my chips on the table. And to say we were all in on that was and is the biggest understatement.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like I said, knock on this Hamilton box over here. We did it.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching another chapter of Upcycling the American Dream. It's important to note that all the viewpoints, stories, and facts shared in these chapters are coming from me, myself, and I, Robert Thomas Custer. They are mine alone and are not shared by Vortic LLC, Vortic Watch Company, and its related parties. For our full legal description and our full legal disclaimer, go to vorticwatches.com/victory. You'll also find at that link a special offer and a link to pre-order our upcoming book. Again, vorticwatches.com/victory.